welcome people. Thank you for tuning in to the Jagged Edge. This is your host, Ian, along with...
Oh, is that when I speak? Hi,
Yeah,
hey, what's up, everybody?
this guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it was our talk about full English breakfast and everything beforehand. Maybe it's your Fruity Pebbles. I don't know. I don't know
Fruity
what,
Pebble. I don't eat Fruity Pebbles. You're the Fruity Pebble.
but Captain Crunch. Thank you. Peanut butter crunch specifically. Well, welcome everybody to the show. Thanks.
We still suck at this, people.
Yeah.
That's all right. Thank you for trudging through it.
We got a pretty general.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
Well, no, we got a pretty general show lined up. You know, the last couple of weeks we covered some pretty big topics.
Yes.
But what we discussed and everything, we got a good layout. Following up on a few things we've been discussing over the last few weeks. Media, entertainment, movie happenings, all that good stuff. But we're just gonna rock right on through it and do our thing.
Yeah, no main topic so much tonight, but we do have a lot of updates. We got some fun news. I think I'm going to go off on at least, I think only one rant tonight.
Oh man,
lots of fun stuff. What's that?
I said, man, just one?
Just one, but it's a returning topic, so it's to be expected.
All right.
If you listen to last week's, we're going to talk about the X-Men a little bit, so that'll be fun. I've got my blood pressure medication ready.
I was gonna say, I hope you got the insulin and everything else
too. Anyways, but that's the next story. That's not the first story.
True.
The first story is pretty cool. Maybe we should do them in different order. Because this first one's pretty chill. It's pretty mellow.
So mellow that you like to listen to reggae metal? Yeah.
Reggae metal. All right. The segues are failing. We better just go into it.
Our first hit here is if you're a Bob Marley fan, you'll enjoy this, or if you're just an audio fan in general. I got to include myself in that group. There has been a group of tapes discovered, about 40 years old. They have been down in a dank basement, essentially, in a London hotel. These are actually been remastered and picked back up again. These were from some live performances done by Bob Marley and crew in the 70s. They were actually found in a place where his group used to crash between shows overseas. And this is a big deal for a couple of reasons. Bear in mind too, this isn't fresh for this week specifically. It's actually technically the last week or so this has been going on. But pretty stoked about this, both from an audio standpoint, restoring something this old, like water damage, everything else. That's awesome. And I mean, hey, Bob Marley himself. So shows this stuff still can be picked up, whether we're talking about old school 8-track or tapes. This is always great to see, and Lord knows, I mean, how much somebody would pay for something vintage like that.
Yeah, no. Did you say you are or are not a Bob Marley fan?
Oh, I'm indifferent. I've always respected him. I cannot say that I'm totally wired and like I know every song and everything like that. No. But
no, I have to agree. I don't have any of his stuff, but
yeah.
I can always appreciate it whenever I hear it. No, that's pretty cool though. I mean, especially when you have artists that have long finished, if they're just not recording anymore, or they're not around anymore. It's always nice when this stuff pops up. Kind of like what do they call them? A time capsule.
Yeah,
kind of like a time capsule. So that's pretty cool. Looking forward to hearing these things. See if there's anything super great. That is unfortunately the fate of a lot of these things, is that they're not all that great. They didn't make it out of the dank basement for a reason. I love how you use the term dank basement talking about Bob Marley here. I guarantee you that basement is not as dank as it used to be. But yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. All right, it's time to talk about the X-Men again. So we had a big topic about X-Men last week, and I complained a lot about the movies, and I'm going to complain a little bit more.
Here goes.
Because there was a little bit of news that came out about it. What's that?
I said, here goes.
Here goes. Well, I probably maybe not too much. This is just more frustration on the franchise for the movie. So something came out this week. Sophie Turner, who plays Jean Grey from the last movie, the X-Men Apocalypse, made a mention last weekend about how she is still slated uh, to star in another X-Men movie. And that's a bit surprising because X-Men Apocalypse did not do very well. I don't think they lost money on it, but they didn't make a lot of money on it. And while the plan was to continue on with that cast, it was not received well enough to where they kept that plan. And Fox announced last year that they weren't going to continue on with it. They were done. They were going to continue on with Deadpool, Deadpool 2, and the New Mutants. And I'll ask you a bit about the New Mutants because I don't know a heck of a lot about them. But those two movies were slated, but they had stopped the production on the next X-Men proper movie, which would have included all the new cast. From Apocalypse. So that's a little surprising. These things tend to change, and quite honestly, this may mean nothing. But when you hear one of the main actors say that they're still slated to shoot it,
right?
That's surprising. Now, some people think that maybe this means that maybe Jean Grey is going to be in the New Mutants. And normally, if you had a big franchise and a big movie universe that stays in line with continuity, I would say, how is that possible? Because this Jean Grey was in the 1980s. And the New Mutants is going to take place in present time. But then again, it's Fox. So they don't give a shit about that. So what's a 30-year difference to Fox in continuity to them? They've obviously shown that it doesn't matter much. Again, I'm going to, just like I pointed to Nightcrawler last week, I'll point to him again this week. How was Nightcrawler around in the 1980s when he was in X-Men 2 in, 2002, 2003? Around the same age. Maybe a little bit younger. That's whatever. I think at the end of our conversation last week, I came to the point of, I don't care. I do care a little bit though, because Deadpool was a lot of fun, and they had started saying that they're going to move in the direction of basing things more around Deadpool's mutant universe and building off of that. And that's why I was happy to see that they announced the New Mutants, which I know enough about them to know that they turn into X-Force, which then directly relates with Cable and Deadpool, which are going to be in Deadpool 2, obviously. So, what's your opinion on this?
No, first, I want to comment on the continuity issue. The thing I felt that the Fox tried to do here, maybe even inadvertently, and they just kind of fell on their faces about it, was pull the same thing you saw with the Ultimate timeline in the comics. Now, that is, you had the same characters, all younger, albeit, and then some of the villains were changed. Some of the origins were shifted a little bit, but really it was a pretty gentle shift, right? I mean, you kept the same general integrity of said universe together. And, I don't know, trying to do that on the big screen, when you're trying to keep continuity with the rest of the series, I think was a bit of a rough transition, and now we're really seeing some odd gray spots from all this. So as far as where that's going to turn out, I can't say yet. Especially even if there's going to be another X-Men film, what we're going to see. So be it.
I forgot to mention one thing here is that it's rumored that if this X-Men 7 does go forward, that it's going to start and be based around a reboot of the Dark Phoenix saga. They messed that up so bad. I don't know if I want to touch it.
I'm frankly, I'm with you there. Look, when I think of the Dark Phoenix saga, I'm taken back to the animated series.
That was good.
Yeah, during that time they did it justice, and it was pretty hype, and it was announced because it was a huge surprise. Jean, of course, was a central character to the X-Men, but she took so much more of a pivotal role where she played there in the series, and then just having that kind of hackneyed with what we saw in the movies was odd. So, who knows? Second time might be a charm. Kind of doubt it. I, for one, I'm looking. I'm interested in New Mutants because I admit I really don't have as much of a background on that or knowledge about it. So hey, I've always been for it. Educate me. cool way. You know, you got
So you don't know much about that
I don't
part
know a
of
whole lot
the
about
whole
New
X-Men
Mutants.
thing. Okay.
No.
Hmm. So you can't help me with that.
No, I wish. It was supposed
All
to,
right.
just like I can't help you.
I don't know much about it. I don't think we talked about this too much. I mean, you
No,
could catch
no.
my general disdain for X-Men. I am not a fan of much of the X-Men when it comes to the comic books. I don't think I brought that up. I enjoyed their games. I enjoyed the cartoon. I've enjoyed some of the movies in general. Though when it comes to the comics, it's a hot mess, and it's too much of a mess for me after all this time now to even want to try to get into. So I know what the New Mutants are. I know they become X-Force. That's about the vast amount of my knowledge.
Simple enough.
Yeah.
Oh well.
So all right. Well. I don't think we talked about this too much. You liked Days of Future Past. What did you think of Apocalypse, though? I think you were kind of meh about it.
No, yeah, we do. I mean, this is part of what we discussed last week. I really was meh about it. It didn't make a huge impact with me, considering how much of a villain Apocalypse was. Now, I used to think he was awesome, like in the series, and it took everybody and their mother to take him down and hone in on his weak point. Did they? I can't remember. Did they even focus a whole lot on the weak point on the back of his neck in this version? Or
I
not?
don't remember them even doing that.
I don't know. I don't think.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't remember how they took him down. Didn't it have something to do with Jean Grey and Cyclops? Had a lot to do with how they ended up taking him down.
I mean, it's sort of followed in the spirit of the comics, in that it's always a combined effort from many.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the whole mental battle, the inner battle going on with Jean, Xavier. You had all the outer stuff with Storm. You had
that's right.
Then you
right.
had
Now
I mean, that's the idea, but it was just always done in so much more of an epic way. I think in other productions of X-Men. So, nah.
Yeah, well, I mean, a little hard for that to feel like an epic fight when your main villain looks like a guy in a cosplay suit that he spent too much time on. Well, he did.
The other thing, Apocalypse, right? His ability to pull like I can't remember, kind of like Ant-Man, like in reverse, like to get massive, like giant style. That wasn't something just psychic he could do.
Right.
The way he could manipulate matter and actually like his own body. I mean, that he could do that physically too. So just, I guess, not having those kind of attributes really took away from his impact too. But I'll leave that with the other show.
If he's not going to look physically imposing, then he has to act physically imposing, and he didn't. He didn't throw his weight around like Apocalypse should have.
Yeah, I mean, there was that one attempt where he took like the world's nuclear supply and detonated all that at once in space. But dude, Apocalypse was, sociopath doesn't even fit it. He was straight up, I am God, and everything here is beneath my heel. Like,
yeah.
No,
he was underwhelming in every capacity that you would have expected.
Yeah, so. I'll leave that in the pile. I'm out.
I don't want to be totally negative tonight. So I think I'm done. There it is. I hope they don't do it. I go with the New Mutants. Go with Deadpool. Leave that X-Men mess alone.
Tell you what you should. What you should do though. Hey, spin into this, because you looked this up. You delved in this for me. I brought this one up last week. There is something else getting an update on Netflix though. It's going to be animated. That's looking pretty hype right now.
Oh, okay. Here we go with the segue. Thank you. The Castlevania Netflix show, which we brought up last week, there wasn't a lot of information on it, but since we talked about that, I did find some more stuff about it. And the biggest question that we had was, is it going to be animated or live action? I was definitely hoping more for an animated. I think the material and the history for Castlevania and the Belmont family, and I think it lends itself to being an animated series. Apparently other people thought that was a good idea too, because that is exactly what they're doing. So I found some more information about this. It will be an animated show. We said it's coming out this year, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's coming out this year. It's going to be animated. I'm going to try not to butcher this name. It's not too bad, but I'm horrible with names. Adi Shankar. He's going to be the showrunner. He's most popular for being a producer on the Good Dread movie. Have you ever seen the good one? Not
I've
the
not.
crappy one. Oh, it's awesome. I'm not talking about the crappy one with Sylvester Stallone from the 90s. A different Dread movie came out I think about 4 or 5 years ago. It's awesome. It was on Netflix for forever. I don't think it's on there anymore. It is worth digging up and finding. Anyone who hasn't seen it, it was Dread done proper. Really good stuff. So he's the showrunner. So in that respect of taking a game and or taking something, in that case a comic, and adapting it to the screen, he's got history of doing that well.
Sweet.
Let's see, Warren Ellis. He was a writer for Iron Man and Transmetropolitan. You ever seen Transmetropolitan?
Nope, another one I missed.
I don't know that either. Anyways, his name is Warren Ellis, and he's writing the first season. Did write Iron Man. That was really good. Obviously, launched a ridiculously large franchise now. Let's see, animator Michael Hirsch. His new studio, Wow Unlimited Media, will be working with Netflix on a show. Do you know who that is?
Not with specific credits. No.
You're the animation guy, so I don't know what that is. So I don't know what to expect as far as that animation, except for the part where it says he's working with Netflix on the show.
Right.
And Netflix does Voltron, which you still haven't seen.
Nope.
No. So everyone else who has seen it, and that is just about everybody else.
Oh, come on. No. It
really is. You're gonna kick yourself. You're gonna kick yourself once you've watched it. You're gonna be like, wow, no, he's right. I was missing out. You get 2 seasons, man. 2 seasons of Voltron. Anime guy.
You're gonna give me anxiety here. This Luke Cage, everything. Man, I'm only one man.
Yeah. Excuses. Anyways. So he's working on it. So if these are names of shows and people that you know about and can get excited about, that's awesome. One thing that may upset some people, though, is that the show is being said to be geared towards younger audiences. What do you think about that?
It's almost kind of self-contradictory. I mean, you think of Castlevania, naturally that's something with a little bit more of a mature edge to it. So when you say younger, my first thing that pops in my mind is, how much younger? You want to aim at like an older teen group, mid-teens, younger teen? Not sure. I can't see this as like 8 and under like that. I don't. Yeah. If you're gonna go that direction, this is not your Saturday morning Naruto or Shonen series or whatever else. No. But to me, just with the context of Castlevania, with how awesome they want to make it, with the crew behind it, I would think at least mid-teen or higher. At least.
It's funny because, geez, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's going to be First Blood. And I don't think anybody was expecting something that was more of an adult drama kind of show. I'm a fan of another cartoon that you're just not watching that I tell you is awesome. That's Star Wars Rebels.
See, you can have your couple of Rebels and the few animations you got over me, but you just wait, because in a certain amount of shows, I'm gonna blitz you so hard on these. You wait. I'll let you have these. I'll let you have this for now.
Okay. Good. I feel better, but now that you said that, I actually feel better that you're going to watch these. That's why I'm taunting you about it. My point to that, though, is that Rebels, which is a lot of people like it's watched in mass for Star Wars fans of all ages. It is geared and appropriate for ages 8 and below. That being said, as a fan of the show, I don't feel like I'm not going to say never, because there is occasionally a time where it's like, all right, yeah, that could have used a little bit more of not an adult feel, but they obviously toned it down a little bit for other audiences, for younger audiences, in which I do get that feeling occasionally, but it's actually very rare. And for the most part, I can forget about the fact that it's geared towards kids. Because it's on Disney XD, it's geared towards children. It's appropriate for children. And I think that's more in line of what we're going to get, because much like Star Wars, we are talking about a franchise here that is over 30 years old.
Right.
And a large part of the audience is going to be people that are probably 30 plus, just because of that. So I don't know. I think we're going to probably get.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring this up, and I didn't mean to throw it in your face again. But I think we will get something more along the lines of Voltron and how that's geared.
It's all right because when you're talking about the 30 plus group, I'm thinking of awesome people who've seen stuff like I don't know, Grave of the Fireflies. No, it's probably not you, is it? Secret of NIMA. No. Oh wait, that's probably not you either, is it?
No.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. No.
I'm on a different iceberg. I'm not even looking at that iceberg. But that's all right. Go ahead and bring up one more.
What? You want this? You want this? Yeah. You want this? Okay. Waltz with Bashir. Boom.
Yeah. How's Rogue One, Ian?
That's not even animation. Don't you even go there. You want to cross into movies? That's going to be a whole nother war.
But my point is made, I think. I think my point is made.
Yeah,
it's still out in theaters.
In your little 3-ring niche, you stay in that, and then it's going to become irrelevant, and you're going to have nothing to stand on.
All right. I'll give you a couple more weeks. In fact, I will. I will try not to rub your face in it for a couple weeks.
Yeah. So go watch.
We'll see. In a couple weeks, I'll start digging at it again and see if you've watched anything. I'll leave it alone.
But before
every week. Crap about this before the show.
This will be a thing. Keep me accountable about it. But if you're gonna do that, go watch Yellow Submarine first. Okay, I'll let that be the last one for now.
Yellow Submarine. Oh my gosh, I have actually seen some of that.
All right.
Yellow Submarine. All right. Iron Fist is coming out next month.
Now that I do know. We talked a little bit about this one. That's pretty hype. Now I'll be honest, real quick about Iron Fist. My introduction proper to him was back on Maximum Carnage on Super Nintendo. I don't know if you remember playing that. It was the Spider-Man and Venom team up.
I know. Yeah, I knew what it was, but I have not played it.
No, and then later on in Marvel vs. Capcom, MVC3 hit. He popped up again. And I started thinking, man, Iron Fist. I haven't seen him in years, but yeah. In fact, he's getting his own show. Awesome.
Looks really good. Trailer dropped last week. Looks really well. I guess the final full trailer dropped last week. Their teaser came out a while ago. Actually, 2 of them in the last year or so. But it looks really good. Out of the all the Netflix shows, and now there's going to be the Punisher, but he's not part of the 4 proper that they had always planned on doing. But at the same time, I think they'll probably end up being the best. But I was the least hyped about Iron Fist. I'd never known a lot about him. Looks really good though. I'm actually looking forward to this. The trailer, and I know it's going to be more complicated this because it's a series versus a movie, but it definitely has an Iron Man feel to it.
Right.
Especially in the story of someone with an inherited company and such. It has its own individual talents besides that, though. The trailer definitely leads to at least a large part of the plot being trying to fend off someone who's trying to take the company, but the characters look completely different. So I'm not expecting this to be a rehash in any way. But really interesting. Obviously leading towards the Defenders. Looking forward to that. Now I think you were more of a Defenders fan than I was.
Right.
I think you know more about the Defenders as in comic form than I do.
Yeah, somewhat. I know I kind of came into, I guess, Defenders around the time I started to look at Avengers, if anything. Now Defenders was pretty cool because you had, I'll never forget some of the front pages of this, like the old school Hulk, the old school like Doctor Strange, and I'm trying to remember. I know. This was like by Neil Adams. He used to do like the old school Marvel like 25-cent comic front page arts. It's Submariner. That was the other hero I remember on the front of this.
Defenders I think has had probably the most amount of change in their roster. Hulk and Doctor Strange I believe are the biggest staples to that. Right. Doctor Strange I think being the biggest staple to the group. It's kind of funny because neither of which will have anything to do with this. I know Luke Cage was a part of it for a while. He is I think seen as basically a staple part of that group as well. I think they've all, except for, I might get this wrong. I think all of them except for Daredevil have Jessica Jones and Iron Fist as well have been a part of the Defenders.
Right. No,
But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no. You're putting in the money. I was going to comment too. It's important whenever you mention the Defenders. Also, what they were modified into around the mid '90s, the Secret Defenders.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you had teams, being assembled for individual missions. So who knows?
Right.
That can be a part of it too. But
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. They say that Defenders is going to, and I don't think this has been confirmed yet, but they say that Defenders is going to lead into Avengers Infinity War. And that'll be pretty cool. And if you don't mind, I'm going to skip past you.
what you got?
I will bring up the Avengers Infinity War. The production trailer came out.
I'm all about context. This one I do want to talk about.
You love the segue, so I saw it, and so I took it. And you got one more story which is actually a really important one. We'll get that after. Late last week, production trailer for Infinity Wars came out. Nice trailer. It was really cool to see Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Pratt and Tom Holland standing together on set. I can understand why they had the three of them do it and talk about it. Each, I guess, bringing their own kind of sect to the Marvel Cinematic Universe with the Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, and then Tom Holland obviously being the bridging the gap between Sony and the MCU for Spider-Man.
Right.
It's a really cool production thing. Obviously, you didn't see much. There were a couple things in there. But overall, before I get into a couple of the specifics, what did you think of this little production reel thing that we got?
That this is just going to be epic beyond epic. I mean, this takes me back to the original Iron Man movie. This is something we've been following for a while now. I mean, since at least '08. When these or before these movies started hitting. And I mean, you look at the timing of all this. This is 10 freaking years basically of the MCU all culminated in one large series, two movies. So I mean, hands down, probably one of the most anticipated movies I've been looking forward to in recent years. I remember when Marvel was doing the Phase 3 rollout, when they were discussing where MCU was going, when they spoke about Ant-Man, when they spoke about Black Panther, Civil War. Everything else leading up to these films was just contrasted so well. And even the best part, before all of this, you get Thor Ragnarok too. Oh my gosh! Like, if you it will be literally impossible for me to pull my movie-itis, aka not seeing Rogue One in theaters yet when this hits. This is a cannot miss.
Yeah, you do understand when you say it's a cannot miss. Really holds no weight when you haven't seen Rogue One.
You say that. You say no. You say that, and yet, my friend, there's so much more history. You hold this one counterweight over me. Man.
All right, well, I didn't mean to, but you put it out there. We've been watching this, and it's all recent history. It's not like Star Wars, which has been around for 30-some years and stuff.
Right.
And this, truth be told, while Rogue One is a great movie, I'm upset I've only seen it once. I do plan on seeing it again before it leaves the theaters, but it is not a core part. It is not an episode to the Star Wars saga. So there is something to be said for maybe not being as much of a can't miss as the next Avengers. So I get that at face value. I get that. But I mean this is awesome, and we've got some great movies coming ahead before we even get this. Like you said, Thor Ragnarok, which is awesome. That is looking so badass.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember early production, they described this movie as a space traveling buddy flick.
Yeah.
With Hulk and Thor, and we're gonna get so much. They're gonna just expand things. I do want to make one note though. One note before we go on to this. A couple things in the production trailer which were interesting. Something that I noticed. They do have a production screen in there. I'm sure you saw it of Rocket Raccoon and Thor.
Yep.
Did you notice that Thor did not have his hammer?
I did.
You did notice it. Okay. All right.
And it's funny that segues to something I wanted to ask you. I was about to ask you about that whole Rocket Raccoon segment. Not just him alone. How do you think the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to be interacting in this? Like, do you think there's going to be any more setup we're going to see before this next Avengers film hits? Some of the famous post-credit scenes that we always get from Marvel, or do you think that they're really going to be saved for the last Avengers movie to certain interactions?
I don't know. I don't think so. The director for Guardians of the Galaxy has said that we won't see Thanos.
Right.
We will not see him in the movie. At the same time, I mean, his 2 daughters are in it. So,
Right.
they're part of the Guardians of the Galaxy at this point in Volume 2. So, I mean, there's still the 6th Infinity Gem. We don't know where it is. We don't know who has it. We don't know where it's going to pop up. The 5th one popped up in Doctor Strange, but there's still the 6th one, and I don't remember which one it is because they're different. The colors and what they mean are different from the comics. I'm not sure which one we're missing at this point. You want to look that up while I talk? Yeah. So I think we're going to get some setup. I think we're going to get a little bit of a setup as far as to why they're going to end up being on Earth. Maybe
Right.
they could also easily set that up in Infinity War. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Interesting about that. It's something I wanted to bring up when we were talking about this. Generally speaking, in fact, I think there has not been a case yet where with the MCU, when it comes to the movies, all these things happen kind of in real time. Like
Right.
the time between one movie to the next, if it was 6 or 7 months between one MCU movie to the next one, is how much time took place in the Marvel Universe.
Right.
That is actually not going to be the case for the first time coming this year. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is set to take place 2 months after the first one, which came out at that point will have been about 3 years. So that's interesting to note about that. And then we're going to see that again for the second time. Not only is Avengers Infinity War and the next Avengers movie being shot back to back, but they will take place back to back.
Exactly. And also here's another important thing to remember with these. What's going to really tie them together? Of course, that is the theme of the Infinity Gems that we've been seeing constantly. We've been throughout all these stories, also through some of the end credits. In regard to this two things besides what's missing. Also, Marvel has stated that there's a very high chance that these are going to obey their own rules. I think a lot of fans have been, they may have looked at some of these and assumed that we'll be dealing with the exact same concepts as you did out of the comics or out of NBC, whatever you play, whatever you watch. But I think we still there's a lot of surprises in the bag for this, especially if you consider what we know, what we do have, the ones we have seen, and what we don't have. For example, I know for a fact the Time Gem and the Soul Gem are two that I believe are kind of out of sorts. The Time was the yellow one, if I remember right, and then the Soul was the green.
Yeah, I believe that was the case, but I don't think that's the case in the movies.
Right.
I think because I'm almost positive Vision has the yellow gem, which is the Soul Gem in the movies. And
so we've had that. Obviously, we've had the Mind that's in Loki's scepter. You've had the Reality Stone, that's the red, the Ether Stone. There's the Power Stone, which is the purple one. Anyone who's seen Guardians of the Galaxy, remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I really think, at least right now, for what we see in MCU, it seems like it's the Soul Stone that's out of place.
No, that's the one the Vision has.
No. I thought Soul was green. Mine was Time. I mean, Soul was green, yellow's Time.
See, this is why it sucks, and
right.
some of this is actually up for debate as well. Some people believe that the red one is the Power Gem. It can be debated.
True.
But we are missing one. And that's why as much as I follow this, I don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
I guess you weren't able to find that conclusively.
No. I'll just say this: the green one. Look for the green one, because
the green one is the one we're missing.
I haven't seen the green one, so
no lemon lime.
Yeah.
We're missing lemon lime. All right. So that's interesting though, because I mean, well, the timeline of all this. A lot of people thought that Doctor Strange maybe was out of place, at least from where it started to where it ends in present day. A lot of people upset that that's not the case because I guess he learns. I have not seen Doctor Strange yet. That's horrible of me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, you
Yeah,
haven't either.
smart guy. Oh, I
Yeah,
haven't. I haven't, huh?
no, you
Well,
haven't.
okay, I'm about to blow your mind because I'm going to tell you something about the Doctor Strange film that I'm feeling like a bit of a dunce for that I should have said a moment ago.
Okay.
Firstly, I have seen the Doctor Strange movie. Yes, you like complete noob, and
Okay.
the gem was revealed. The gem was revealed in that. That is actually where our green gem is. Soul time. In fact, I think
That
that
is,
was
I know the time gem comes from Doctor Strange.
based off of context. That is the time gem. Green
Yeah.
is time, and they reveal the artifact that it's stored in. So there we go. So we have that.
But is it the green one?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, you'd know
So-
that if you watched the movie. I mean,
Yeah.
but clearly, I
I'm
can't
getting
help.
shut
I
up.
can't help you. I can't help you.
It's coming out on DVD this month. I'm getting it then.
Oh, I heard this line from
Yeah, I hear it from you a lot.
yeah. I thought so. Thought that was familiar, man.
Shut up. But my point was that we've got a lot of movies coming out before before Infinity War. Let's see what we have coming up here. We have Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yep.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Thor Ragnarok, and that's this year.
Oh yeah.
And then we have Black Panther, and actually there's only 2 events after Thor Ragnarok. It looks like besides the TV shows, besides the broadcast TV shows, the only things coming out before Infinity Wars is Black Panther, and I think just before that, and this again ties into what I was saying, the Defenders will be out just before Infinity Wars, and they, like I said at the beginning, they said that the Defenders will in some way tie in. I suppose that counts. There's been a big debate for over a year now as to whether the Netflix Marvel shows and if they're actually tied into the MCU or not. They definitely reference it all the time. The movies rarely reference anything from the Netflix shows.
Right.
Besides very small Easter eggs, they hardly ever reference them. So that's cool that they're going to give that nod. I would rather see them at least make some kind of cameo in that movie. They need to be there. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll throw it in there yet. I think they're saying something like 64 characters in Infinity War. So they still could.
Love it.
So we've got plenty of opportunities for the 6th gem to pop up, especially when you start talking about Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther.
Yeah.
Definitely scenarios for those movies where an Infinity Gem could pop up.
Yeah, especially with Thor, I'm really curious how they're going to base the main villain. Now, I didn't read this arc extensively in the comics, but I do know that the main baddie of that was Surtur, I believe. If I'm butchering that, somebody correct me.
So I'm not a big Thor guy when it comes to the comics. You were talking about Thor, right?
Yeah. I
don't know.
It's just, it was pretty sweet. I mean, hey, to sum it all up, big old swole, smoldering devil, smart as I don't know what, straight out of Norse underworld, was pretty awesome for Thor and where it fit. He was a good villain.
I think he's a large part of the villains in Thor Ragnarok. I think the main villain is Hela.
Okay.
Though, which he is a part of her group. They've already said that. The Ragnarok's all over the place because you're gonna get some Planet Hulk stuff too.
Yeah.
It is all over the place, but it's kind of funny because again, looking at that promo screen with Rocket Raccoon and Thor still got his hair. One of the things that they said was that Thor gets his hair shaved off in Ragnarok. But more interesting, again, leading back to what originally brought up the topic, where's his hammer? And whenever Thor does not have his hammer, that's a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't have his hammer, who the hell has his hammer? And more importantly, though, why doesn't he have his hammer?
Right.
What does that mean for Thor? That's For those who follow the comics, Jane Foster, who was in the first two movies, his love interest in the first two movies, Natalie Portman, no longer playing any more roles in the MCU.
That
She's openly said she's not going to.
that's a bummer.
Well, yeah, but I don't see her being the new Thor.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I get it. Like, I say that, but I mean, at least it's not a break in continuity. For example, like what she had with War Machine. I mean,
yeah,
although that's settled in just fine. I'm cool with that.
that worked for the better. I
I'm
think.
cool with that. Especially just the heart of who's playing it. That's good. It's good.
Yeah, but I
Um,
mean that's crazy though. I mean that's a pretty big deal. I worry that this isn't going to get the attention that it deserves with a movie that's already as packed as Ragnarok is.
yeah.
And then we probably won't see Thor again until Infinity War.
See,
So
here's why this deal with the hammer is going to be so important, regardless of what it is. If it's a bigger deal than we're making it, if it's a smaller deal when we're making it, it's going to be really important to structure this whole crisis right. If it is indeed a crisis with this hammer, or like to call a power crisis, and I go back
right.
to that because I think of Thor 2. I had that correct, where he was banished, right? He's exiled for a time without his hammer, without his
Oh,
power.
that's the first one.
Was that the first one? Was that the first?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's here I go crossing movies again.
That's all
Uh,
right. It's easy to confuse or even forget a lot about the first two Thor movies.
yeah, but I think anytime you have a pivotal character that has a power crisis, you want to be careful that if you repeat said theme, that when it comes up again, it's effective. It's done so in an effective way, not as much of a repetition. I think if it's just repeated in the same style, like it can get stale really easily. If it's a really kind of cool creative reason or like something major as to why this happened, or maybe there's an aspect of his power he's detached from this time that does not mirror like the last incident, I think you can pull it off really successfully. Uh,
Well, the big thing about uh, the hammer, Milmir,
mhm.
is that only very few people can or ever have or will be
Right,
able to pick it up. They made a big thing about that in Avengers 2, and that's something right out of the comics, is that you have to be worthy in order to do it. And again, you had all the characters try at the beginning of Avengers 2, none of which could. They kind of did a little bit of a nod to, at one point, Captain America was able to do it in the comics, and he budged it ever
yep,
so slightly. And then of course they had Vision pick it up, which I understood, but didn't like that they did that whole thing. But whatever. Um, so that's part of the MCU, is that you have to be worthy to do it. So that leads me to conclude that Thor coming out of Thor 3 is not worthy to do it.
right.
And they've done that storyline in the past, and I can't say that I know of any specifics, but in the comics they have done that. I believe in a couple of occasions. That's actually where he is in the comics now, where Jane Foster's the new Thor, because he did something to become unworthy. And in fact, he's actually a pretty cool character now. He's got a robotic arm. He was missing an arm, something that had to do with that. He's got some really badass acts. In fact, in the comics, where they have now merged all the other universes, and the big merger to that was the main MCU universe and the Ultimate Universe. He's now on a search to try to find the Thor's hammer from the Ultimate Universe
Oh
to try
wow.
to get another one. So, which I don't think we'll see pop up in the MCU, but
No.
it's interesting. And I enjoy it when they play these things off. Marvel tends to do a good job when they pull stuff out of the comics, which obviously this is all in some way based off of. But
Right.
when they pull new elements out of the comics and they use them, they tend to do a really good job with it. I'm just really interested and intrigued, because he's obviously going to play a big part taking on Thanos, who is, on his own extremely powerful, and then with the Infinity Gems is going to be unstoppable. And
And
so a character like Thor is going to be critical.
yeah, Thanos is expected to be leagues above whatever we've seen the Avengers face so far, and hey, that's saying a lot when you jump
Mhm.
back and you consider Ultron, the rest of the invasions, everything else that's been encountered. But hey, I think Thanos has got the chops and the credibility to back him. This is a guy that has always had a pretty high end treatment when it comes to whatever Marvel series he shows up in. In fact, so vaunted that he appeared as in a late boss character to play as in a number of Marvel games. He wasn't the last boss in MVC, for example, but he always has been super important. Marvel superheroes, I think, is a great example. He wielded all the Infinity Gems at that point, and he was a pretty sick boss fight. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah. So here, part of my question though, going back to the timeline, is that we have the movies leading up to Avengers Infinity War, and that's fine. But what about the movies that come out in between Marvel's Infinity War, Marvel's Infinity War, and then what is now an untitled? It used to be Part 2, but it's now an untitled Avengers movie. They're going to go in production at the same time. They're going to shoot them both at the same time. They're going to come out 1 year apart, but they're not the only thing coming out in between.
Right.
Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel come out in between the two.
Right. And this.
And I'm just going to say as well that it is heavily rumored that Sony plans on coming out with Spider-Man movies on a yearly basis. And that is not confirmed yet, but I know that is a plan that they've been trying to work out. So we may get 3.
This almost makes me wonder if there's going to be some sort of event post the first Infinity War movie we get, where there has to be some sort of regathering of forces or like a recommencement. I mean, and then someone epic like Captain Marvel to come into the picture, like. I mean, look, at this point, with just the power scale you're talking, you're just missing, like, Galactus, Surfer, a few characters like that, then you have complete hacks. I don't know how you'd be able to show all that on the screen.
Right.
But
yeah, it's interesting. So they're definitely doing something, which I've always found was kind of nice and kind of interesting, is that if you'd missed previous movies or parts of the TV show, if you wanted to be that kind of big fan, things happened in real time, basically, in the MCU, and you could at least pick up at that point and continue on and not have to worry about prequels and sequels to any large extent. You could start watching and get into it and go from there.
Right.
Not going to be the case anymore. And I mean, for someone trying to pick up on everything that happened in the past, you're going to have a mixed up timeline.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a bit of a shame. But yeah, maybe Ant-Man and the Wasp, maybe that takes place coinciding with the Infinity War. I can definitely see that with Captain Marvel, a character like that, especially someone whose powers are so heavily based on outer Earth world abilities, having to do with space aliens and stuff.
Right.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, not really though. That's pretty grounded.
Yeah.
So really, really interesting.
Love it. And heck, what I'm hoping is, especially with the first way the first Ant-Man was set, I thought it had the right mix of humor but scale too.
Which one?
Ant-Man.
Loved Ant-Man. That's one of my favorites.
It was such a welcome surprise. Yeah. I know a lot of people in my circle had some skepticism about it, like, come on, how can you make Ant-Man compelling? Especially because he's got a pretty dark opening in terms of where he stood in his love life, the way he handled his relationships, and people were really worried about how that was going to be handled when you construct this character for the MCU. But again, I think Marvel knocked it out of the park.
I think Ant-Man is perfect. We've seen this in a couple of occasions, and I think Ant-Man's the perfect example of a character that's never really worked that well into comics, just excelling on the big screen.
Yeah.
I mean, and that makes sense when you think about having to tell the abilities of someone like Ant-Man who can grow and shrink, and telling those things on a static page versus being able to see that on a movie screen and see those abilities. They're just much more exciting.
It's worlds different.
And I think that's what really made it. And they had a damn good actor and a damn good cast for that whole movie. And I think the lightheartedness of it, coming out right after a very serious story with Avengers 2, where we saw it for superhero death as well.
Yeah.
But a very very serious tone, and then getting a very lighthearted movie after that. I think the timing of it was great. It's one of my favorites out of all the MCU movies.
Sweet. Love it. Well, just hold that phone. Hold that phone. I'm gonna pan away from Marvel Awesome just a second.
Okay.
And look at something in gaming that we've had. You hinted at this a little earlier. Um, those of you who are big into Valve, big into Steam, this is probably some news you're still digesting. You've already looked at, but I want to take a look at this a minute. I want to check out both sides of the story because I think this is really important. Story here is that Valve is set to shut down Steam Greenlight and replace that with Steam Direct in 2017 when that's coming out. Now, I think there's two sides to this. The first is, of course, what this means for independent developers. This was a major platform, I think, for those who were looking into avenues of publishing, ways to get your ideas into some sort of more concrete form and to start to push your idea, your concept onto a platform of some sort. And, you know, with that, obviously the first worry is, okay, crap, this is gone. What other major outlet is there going to be? Before the show, Chris was pointing out like Xbox Live Arcade and a few other efforts beforehand, like on other consoles that embrace the indie community. But I don't think those quite touched on this topic as much as this avenue specifically did. But I don't think the effort with consoles really matches what you have here. The key thing to keep in mind about why this was released, why this came out, was the idea was developers below a certain size could use the program and that they could put their games up for a public vote. Anything with enough votes, you could sell that. That would come up on a web store eventually. What Steam didn't plan for was the explosion of content that happened, and I believe about 38% of the games the store ended up being released in just 2016 alone. So this was kind of meant to have been a bit of a gatekeeper service, to keep a huge stream of shovelware from just flooding the store. In other words, only the games that they knew would secure reasonable sales could make it in the first place. So it's what happened, for sales in just 2016 in general was against like their whole algorithm. So right now it's not even in stone how much this new service is going to cost. It's up in the air anywhere between $100, $5,000. There's already a few groups throwing around counter offers or other possible platforms developers could go to. Now that paints a bit of a gloom and doom picture of it, and I don't think that's all this is. On the upside, on the good side of it, again, I think it's going to cause a little bit more innovation. While it might slow down the Steam machine a little bit, those of you might remember that came out a few years back, specifically for Valve Steam platform, could do that. But on the upside, you're gonna have, I think, even more of the red rope's gonna be gone a bit. You're gonna have more of like an open share with this stuff. Developers are simply going to, go to another spot. This was never the only place people could launch their content from. And it's certainly not going to be the last spot too. So, if anything, I remember I first looked at this and I thought, oh man, this is, a really, really bad thing for any developers. It could be, but let's face it, I think it's a super adaptable market and I think they'll make it. I think it'll be fine.
Well, so I need a little bit of context on this because I am not a big Steam fan.
Yeah.
I got it years ago when I was playing Half-Life 2, but besides very recently, like in the last 2 weeks, I have not had it again until very recently. And I don't. I mean, I know they have a huge online store. I know sometimes they give great deals. I know that I have to have it to play some games.
Right.
Yeah. That's the only reason I've ever had it. But I know there's been a good library there. It's been a good place to get some games. But I put this into context more. When they say 38% of all the games that have come out on the Greenlight have been in the last year or last year, so what?
Yeah.
I mean, what does that matter? What I'm wondering is, are they changing this because from the article you gave me to read, it seems like they're changing this just because it exploded more than they thought it would. And it became a lot bigger than they thought it would.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is, why does that matter? Are we talking about a lack of quality here in a lot of these games? Like people are just voting games in to vote for them, and what is the issue? If the explosion of content's the issue, why is that an issue?
Right. Which I think is really good to put in frame. As far as I know, no, everything released wasn't just total trash games. I mean, there's a reason why they're being voted for. I mean, people didn't people didn't troll this service. I mean, because you had to have a modicum of seriousness to even go into this in the first place or even be working on said project. If anything, I think it's an issue of scale meet system. That is just simply not calculated for the amount of volume or games that would be voted, which is weird if you think about it. When you design something like this, people are going to dream big, think big, and I think giving said developers room to do that is pretty critical. Maybe I'm selling parts of it short, but
I mean, I give an independent person a good platform to make a name for themselves or make a game that people are going to enjoy. I'm all for that. So I'm trying to find where they need to change this.
right.
And as an outsider looking in, that's where I'm sitting. What's the problem here? Why?
Well, I think it comes down to bottom line, right? I mean, you got to look at allotments. I believe that it's simple that there's a projection here of what this platform is projected to support, and when you have something that a figure that grossly exceeds that, well, frankly, they just didn't beef up the infrastructure enough to support it in the first place.
So we're talking about a server issue as far as space. Which is not an issue nowadays.
No, I think not less an issue of space, gigs, megabytes, and everything like that, but more of support, because it's like this, once something actually gets greenlit and goes on the market, Steam's behind it. They got the support behind it now. It's going to be sold in the marketplace and everything else. So
they back these products.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Now that makes a little bit more sense. All right, so they're all right. It's not so much of, hey, enough people voted for this and they want to be able to buy it, so here it is, and then there you go. It's more of, hey, we're gonna back this. A lot of people want to see this. We're gonna put it up on Steam for you to buy, and we will support this in some function other than just, hey, give us the money.
Exactly. It's not we're not talking quite Kickstarter or something like that.
And so, okay, because that's a little bit different when I start thinking about an outlet for independent artists to be able to have an outlet for them to buy their product, be it a painting or video. Once you have that, that's it.
Yeah.
There's no backing it up at that point. You know what I mean? There's no support needed after that. And so that's kind of why I was like, well, what's the problem here? Because that was the context I was thinking.
No, I'm right with you.
I understand a little bit more. This is becoming a much more heftier thing than they were ready to support in that capacity.
Exactly. Okay. So where it'll go, who knows? I for one, I'm a big fan of a lot of indie games. I picked up a few from that I demoed at PAX. I was talking about Beats and Shapes a few weeks back. Also, Nefarious. I know about a year or so ago I picked up Nuclear Throne off Steam, and all of which have been awesome. So keep going, keep developing.
Yeah, I guess my comments on this initially don't change from when we were discussing it before the show, which is that if this is a huge outlet for Steam and this is a big deal for them, like if this is something that a lot of their user base is happy to support and supports on a regular basis, they need to be careful of how they step here. If they price things out to a point where they're not feasible for a lot of these developers, then, like you said, they'll go elsewhere, and then Steam will start losing people.
Yeah.
You get a lot of casual Steam users like myself who use Steam only because they have to.
Right.
And there will come a day when I will browse around Steam and see what else it has to offer. And if it doesn't offer a lot, then I'm just going to continue to use it for whatever I have to, and I'm not going to browse around anymore. But if they give me reasons to browse around and look at games and give a crap about what else they have to offer, then I will. So just coming from an outside perspective, from someone who has it because they have to, but will probably at some day look through their catalog and see what they have to offer. If you don't have those games to offer anymore, and another place does, I mean, it's just as simple as someone else is buying my time.
Yeah, and hopefully you don't have to take your ball and go home. We'll see. Well, there's one other thing I do want to walk us through tonight that before we close out. And that's an episode which I made sure to catch this week's episode of Legion.
I picked the wrong week to mess with you about not watching stuff.
Oh, you did. See, you're running into the wall now.
I missed it. It's not because I just hadn't watched it. I missed it this week.
Nah,
Later this weekend, but I missed it. Tell me about it. Go ahead and spoil it. I don't care.
uh,
I'm not that guy. I'm that guy in a few things, but I'm not that guy when it comes to Legion. Tell me about Legion.
this week picked up a lot more with exploring David's origins. That is, you can say, okay, a lot of the first episode did that with the crazy trip it was, but hey, here we are. We're removed from the massive escape scene we had at the end of in the first episode. They escape from the facility. He's being hunted. He does make it into a safe haven with this group around him that start working on his memory work, and also talking through his memories to try to locate, isolate those parts of his psyche that exhibit his powers, that give him those powers, see what triggers them, and then hopefully unite all of them back together.
Now, they doing that out of the kindness of their heart, or are they doing that because they want to use them?
Here's the question: they say it because it's for his good, and because they want to help show him how powerful of a psyker he really is.
Well, no. And those two things, I guess I shouldn't put it like that. Because those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive,
Correct.
but they probably are.
Yeah. So, and here you have it. There's a large part of this episode that's dealt to diving directly into his childhood. He runs into a trigger, remembering his father reading him a bedtime story. Of course, we know who his dad is, those who follow comics. But the odd part is, his father's face is completely blacked out in his memory. He can't, for the life of him, recall his father's face. He's always turned brown, if anything.
So they actually show Charles Xavier.
Yes, quote unquote.
They put his face, but
Yes, he's still shadowed, but it shows part of his history when he was part of David's history rather when he was young, and a certain story that he got read every night that as freaks him literally the hell out, and ends up pulling a couple bad triggers with him and whatnot. We don't know everything behind that or the full significance of it yet, but I thought it was really interesting to get the first hint of Xavier himself. Again, to start to look at where some of his abilities are based. That the demon, I'm just going to nickname it that from the previous episode with it's got the big green, fat fellow with the kind of the burning yellow eyes.
okay.
That shows up a lot more. And the storytelling though really gives you that same style. You're diving in and out of about 4 separate narratives at all points. One is him trying to work his memories about Xavier, everything else. The CAT scan room that he was in when this whole breakdown was first happening, when it was just first being discovered how much latent potential he had. Also, some of the incidents from the last episode, his doing drugs, the whole wall incident, his friend that was killed, how she still sort of exists as a figment in his mind, and then also this session of him visiting the shrink, really just going through all his history, and it's done in the style of a recorder, and it speeds up, slows down, and he's overseeing this process the whole time. So it's a real trip the way he's interacting with this whole scene. I thought it was shot really, really well.
Outside of the fact that they kind of not show Professor X, is there any other significant or well-known mutants that are discovered or show up in the show?
None that trip a big chord with me immediately. There could be something subtle I'm just screwing up and just missing here that I'm just foggy on, but no, that was the biggest one for me.
Okay, well, and I mean that is a pretty big one too.
Yeah.
But I know they're going to be ambiguous about that until they really decide what they want to do. Some of the producers and some of the people part of the show have kind of said where things will lead, because this first season, which is also a very small season, they've kind of said where things will lead as far as things go with Charles Xavier. And by the time this season 1 is over, which I won't say, this is an ongoing show, so I won't spoil that.
Right.
It's about the only spoiler I know, actually, because again, this character's pretty foreign to me. But cool. Any big time action?
Uh, not as much. I mean, I think that's that's what I'm really enjoying about this story. The action is really told in so much of a mental thriller. Which really reminds me of the style of Inception, why I fell in love with that movie so much. Yeah, you had your action scenes, you know, there were shootouts and everything like that. I'd say, if anything, the most action had to do with the team that's still hunting David down. Again, the group that's taking him in says, we're trying to protect you from them. We want to develop your powers. There's this other group that's trying to capture him and experiment on him, essentially. And they had this character with them they call the Eye. You probably saw him a little bit in the last episode. It's this fella in a suit with kind of curly hair. He's out with a group of FBI agents and or agents rather, and like the hunting dogs and everything else. But he pops up not just in quote unquote actual reality where they're trying to hunt and find him after this first escape, but he's popping in sections of his memory as he's trying to go through and piece everything together. And there's this guy keeps showing up again in this pursuing role. So if anything, that's really what built the drama for me. There's always this pending chase that's always happening in the actual reality, and then you have in the mental factor. You're wondering, okay, is there anything he's going to do to actually reveal himself, like or a memory he's going to trip over that's going to give away his location? So you kind of have two chases happening there, while at the same time you're diving through 3 or 4 separate instances of events from his own psyche, one of which is heavily fragmented, and someone who really doesn't exist anymore that's really messing with his mind. So neat stuff.
Cool. So a good follow up from last week.
Yeah, I thought it was a little slower paced overall. Probably not as many large shocks or twists. It was more of sort of like a breakdown episode, but I'm expecting that to probably set us up for something bigger next week. So.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. See, folks, as much as I bitch about the X-Men franchise, I'm fair. I'll give it a shot. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm looking forward to this. I can't believe I forgot that it was on yesterday. Again, it was like about within an hour after it had gone off the air. I'm like, God damn it. God. It's been a long week.
Well,
But,
say same here. I can't believe it's not butter. So, oh well. Take.
wow.
Yeah, I went there. Anyway, people, thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, if you got any thoughts, comments, anything you want to share, please toss us a line. That's ksawmedia@gmail.com. Of course, you're welcome to give us a sub, give us a like, all that good stuff. All that love as always. It has been a blast being here. Once again, we'll catch up with you again next week. Same time, same place. Till then, peace out. Have a good one.